Hi, Claude Whitacre here. I'm a sales trainer, a sales speaker. I talk to groups of salespeople across the country and groups of people that are business owners also. And I also have written several books on selling. I also read a lot of books on selling. I'm a voracious reader, and one of the things you should do if you're in sales, you should read a lot of books on selling from different authors in different industries. That's really going to help you. One of my favorite books on the subject of cold calling is Cold Calling Techniques That Really Work by Schiffman. This is really one of my favorite books. I do a lot of reviews, and I talk about other books on selling and prospecting and things. But on cold calling, this is really about the best book I've ever read on that subject. And the reason is this: I can tell by reading this book, I can tell by the techniques that the gentleman uses, Mr. Schiffman uses, I can tell that he's given thousands upon thousands upon thousands of cold calls. I know he just didn't get these techniques out of another book. I know he uses these techniques because I can tell that they work. And I've used some of these techniques myself, and I've proven that they work. And I'm really happy to promote this book and talk about some of the things that are in this book. Well, today what I want to talk about is one of the many things he talks about in the book, and it's about recording your own prospecting calls. Now, you're not going to have to do this for a long period of time, okay? Maybe half an hour. So you don't have to do it for a month. You can just do it for half an hour. You want to record your own prospecting calls. You want to hear from an objective, third-person point of view. You want to hear what you say and what the prospect says. And here's why. I've given that advice before, that you should record your calls. And I've been given that advice to myself years ago, that you should record your calls. And I didn't realize why until I heard my own calls. And here's what I found out. And this is what you're going to find out. You say things you don't know you say. Okay, you do things you do not know you do, and you won't believe that you do these things or say these things when somebody points it out to you. You're going to deny that you do these things. You have to see it for yourself. You have to hear it for yourself. For example, in my case, here's what I was doing. Now, this is about 35 years ago that I did this. This is a long time ago. But I remember I was recording the calls on a cassette player, by the way. I was recording my calls, and here's what I heard. Before I ask every single question, I would say, let me ask you this, before every question. And I asked a lot of questions. And you know what? I did not know that I did that. But before every question, I'd say, let me ask you this. And then I'd ask the question. And the guy that was talking to me, and he said, the one who was telling me, I should record my calls, he says, you say that. And I go, no, I don't. He goes, you do, every question. It's unnerving. It's repetitive. You're killing your sales. I said, no, I am not doing that. And of course, I listened to it. After about the third time, I heard myself say, let me ask you this. I never did it again. Okay, now that hits you, it affects your brain. It makes it so you don't do that mistake again. Well, another thing a lot of people do, that's what I did. But I also did this, and a lot of people do this, and this is far more common than saying, let me ask you this, is that you say things like and 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 well, you do that kind of thing, and you don't know that you're doing it, okay? Or at the end of every sentence, you say, okay, or all right. At the end of every sentence, you'll say, I'd like to see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock, okay? Well, and the guy says, well, I don't know, tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I'm kind of busy at 3 o'clock. Well, how about 4 o'clock, okay? And at the end of every sentence, you say, okay. You know what? The first or second time you do it, that's okay. Okay? The first or second time you do it, it's okay. But you know what? The 30th time you do it in a conversation, you know what the other person's doing? They're counting the okays. They're not listening to what you're saying. They're counting the number of times you're saying okay. Because if you ever listen in an interview on TV, usually a movie star or somebody like that is talking, and they'll have that habit. And they'll say at the end of every sentence, they'll say okay, or something like that. And after a while, you don't remember what they're saying. You just hear them say okay. In fact, the other people in the discussion, they start mocking that person by saying okay after every single sentence. See? So you have to know that you're doing, they're called word whiskers, or things that you shouldn't be doing, things that mar your language and mar what you're saying and affect the delivery. You need to get rid of those things, and the only way to do that is to record your own presentation and record your own prospecting calls. Folks, that's one of many different ideas that I got out of cold calling techniques. Some of these things, of course, if you're an experienced salesman, you'll already know, but a lot of these things will come as a shock. Okay, they'll come as new information to you. And frankly, when I was reading this, there were a couple of times I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because the answer was so obvious and I never thought of it before. And I just thought it was funny. How did I miss this for that long period of time? My suggestion is if you're in sales at all and you ever thought of making a cold call, the first book you should get is Cold Calling Techniques That Really Work by Schiffman. Thank you.